3.
What's happening?
Where am I?
Stuff.
Welcome back to Come and Brew It Radio, coming to you from Texas Brewing Inc. in Haltom City, Texas. You can find us on the web at txbrewing.com and be sure to follow us on Facebook and share with your friends.
In this episode, we'll be discussing the emerging Brute IPA substyle with an example of the Social Kitchen recipe Greg brewed and an example that Rar & Sons brewed for their 14th anniversary party that's this weekend. Plus, we have Austin Heisch, the barrel master at Rar, in studio with us to help discuss their process. And then stick around as we get into the discussion of splitting batches for experimenting to get the most from a recipe. We're going to try an example from Nigel, and Eric did not bring any of his beers from France. So,
before we get started, please be sure to check out our Patreon account to help support the show. Every little bit counts, and if you visit patreon.com/Come and Brew It Radio, we have a variety of options for you to help keep the show going, get involved, and improve it. It needs improving sometimes.
yes.
Also, every live show will have a giveaway for all our patrons, and at the end of each month, we'll be doing a monthly product giveaway for all our $5, $10, and $20 patrons. I'm Nigel.
I'm Brandon.
I'm Greg.
I'm Michael.
I'm Austin.
Say hi, Crystal.
I'm
Say hi.
Sandra. I'm Crystal.
And Eric's in the studio.
And there's
Hi,
Sandra
Eric.
back there. There's Sandra right there. So.
Hey guys, how we doing?
Good. I'm kind of
Good.
glad I didn't add anything after the so there. It worked a lot better, I think, than it would have otherwise.
I tried to leave a dramatic pause.
Yeah.
It was
So-
pretty dramatic.
It was.
I was worried.
I was waiting for a
a
drum
moment.
roll or
Yeah.
something. It never really happened. But
I was too traumatized for the drum roll. I was scared and nervous about what was going on.
Where am I?
All right. Well, away we go.
Yeah, away we go again.
Well-
So, recent happenings. So, yeah, actually, it's because I forgot that I didn't fill that last part in as I was writing this last minute.
It's all right. We had to make revisions on the fly because I dropped the ball and didn't keg any of the beer I was supposed to this week.
damn it, Brandon.
Yeah, well, this week has been.
Nothing gets in the way of brewing. Not
One for
life,
the books.
not anything. Okay?
I beg to differ. I think everything gets in the way of brewing at my house. So that's my fault. I'll take responsibility for that.
It's
But
all right.
we've still got some good things to talk about tonight. The Brute IPA thing is something that I'm really interested in getting into because the limited experience with it, I don't think I've had good examples of it. So I'm really looking forward to getting into it a little bit more and hopefully trying something that's a little bit better representation than what I've had.
You can hope.
I
I
was
can
saying,
hope.
given the fact that Austin brewed one and the fact that your expectations are low, I hope you're impressed. You know, if not, there might be problems.
Well, the only
You
reason I
might
say
throw a
my
shoe, too, and
expectations
He's got
are,
boots on.
Yeah.
the only reason I say my expectations are low is just because I just don't believe in the theory behind the style. There's a flaw to it, I think, that and it's only because every example I've tried has played out that way. I've just yet to have one that's convinced me, but that doesn't mean it's not going to happen.
And we had beer in Portland that, I mean, we had, what, 3 or 4 probably while we were up there, and they all kind of had the...
I was
all
not
of
a
us were
fan.
like, eh.
I would say, but to me, you sound like Stubby when it comes to hazy IPAs. Oh, I've never had a good one. They all taste the same. Blah blah blah.
Shots
Yeah, but
fired.
he's had a lot of hazy IPAs. I've only had a few Brute IPAs, and so far,
When the only Pilsners you'd ever had were mass market adjunct lagers, did you think Pilsners and pale lagers could be good?
But see, that's not the thing. I've had
You just
craft-
hadn't had
I've
a real one yet.
Craft breweries that have brewed Brute IPAs, and I just didn't like them. So I'm looking forward to finding one that I think somebody's gotten right.
I'm thinking it'll be, it's like
and
we
it could
said,
be
it's-
later on.
It's an emerging substyle. I think there's room for
Yeah, well,
things
absolutely.
to be,
The-
just
the-
like the New England IPAs.
yeah, the
like
first
there's-
ones I had are nowhere near what they are today.
Yeah,
And,
exactly.
you know,
So.
so we'll see. Should be good.
Yeah,
not
speaking
seeing
of
Brandon's
RAR
track
and
in
whatnot
here,
being
but
here, we have the recent happenings. RAR's 14th anniversary party is this weekend.
Yep, tomorrow.
Yeah, so do you want to say a little bit about that while you're here?
Yeah, if you're listening live, I encourage you come on out. We're going to have 30 plus beers. It's going to be a great time. Live music, food trucks.
30 beers?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Noon to 4. It's $25 if you buy your tickets online. I'm not sure if that's still an option or
That's
up
until
Till
what,
midnight.
midnight
till midnight.
tonight,
All right,
right?
then till
Yeah.
midnight. It'll be $30 tomorrow. But you'll get a bunch of beer, little tasting glass. It's an amazing time. I recommend it. So
Yeah, every time that I've been to a couple of those, and man, it's overrun with good beer and everybody having a good time. So.
Yeah, I mean, we hold back beers from throughout the year from different seasonal,
And
small
then some.
batches. Yeah, we have vintage ones from years back. We'll have the brewed IPA that we brewed, New Brute Goofin', kind of debuting. We'll also have the anniversary beer this year is a raspberry Brett beer. So,
May as well give the whole description.
Well, do you describe the entire thing? Or, yeah, that could take a while. I don't know. So just a pale raspberry. Well, I guess it's not pale anymore. Raspberry sour with Brett, aged in Buckingbach, or not, it was Buckingbach base beer, but aged in Cabernet and Chardonnay barrels.
Okay.
Then blended back together.
And it's good because we have some here
It is.
tonight,
It's
and
excellent.
we can talk about it again whenever we start
I've
trying
sampled it a couple times. I'll admit.
I think I added the
Couple.
Brett a few times.
But yeah, otherwise, if you guys can get out there, check that out. Roar's been really gracious to give us these examples tonight. Like you said,
You're welcome. Thanks for having us on.
Yes, thanks, sir.
Yeah. We get to try all these and talk about it before anybody else does, so we're happy about that. Other recent happenings, I was looking for some stuff as we were coming up with this, and I don't think we covered this before. Just had a couple of things here. So if anybody else can think of something as it comes up. First thing I saw recently was that we all know that Oscar Blues is brewing in Austin and whatnot, but they said that now they're actually brewing the Dale's Pale Ale here, and which they were doing, but they're also brewing it here with the Blacklands malt, which is a Texas maltster. So I thought that was interesting. I mean, the fact that, these guys have the money to do whatever they want to, but I thought they're going to do Dale's Pale with, I don't know anything about Blacklands so much, but I've heard the name, and I know that there are multiple breweries that are interested.
I know it's darker than Whitelands.
Thank you for that.
That's great insight right there.
Right.
But it's like...
Kind of information you're only going to get.
You don't get that
from
just
the
anywhere.
insiders,
No, that's right.
that we've got here on the show.
What got me about it was we've had the discussion thinking about the difference between the large scale maltsters and the smaller versions, and what we had was, what did Stubby say? His I think his term was, so you're paying more money to brew more inconsistently because you're going with these guys that may have variance between batch to batch, and I thought, well,
Fair
that's
enough.
interesting that a higher level, like something like what they're owned by, Canarchy. That's the group, and like they're spread different regions. It's a big brewery, but they're going to go to a local to brew something that's pumped out of here, possibly more than anywhere else. I'm not really even sure.
So I assume they're just brewing Dale's Pale Ale exclusively in Texas now.
I guess based off what I was reading, I'm not sure
that
how
would
much is
surprise
brewed
me.
here and not elsewhere.
Well,
So-
yeah,
It's probably just the Dale's for Texas that's
Yeah,
brewed out
that's
of
what I
that
would think,
facility.
yeah.
Okay.
Here's
still,
the thing
though, I mean-
that I think about this is one of the things we see from breweries like Stone and that kind of and that get bigger than your average craft brewery, and Oscar Blues is certainly one of those, is that they outgrow this hyper local marketing that they've done. It's always been about support local, and then they get big enough that all of a sudden they're not part of this little struggling craft scene. And so, when you do something like this, they've got a brewery in another part of the country, and now they're buying from a local maltster. I think it takes something that's larger and maybe more nationwide and kind of brings it back to being local. And they can continue to capitalize off of that marketing angle rather than
good
falling
point.
victim to it.
Well, I mean, and actually, Oscar Blues has 3 different locations. They have their Longmont, Colorado. They have the
Original,
Austin, and can't think of the third one now.
Asheville.
Asheville.
That's right. Where everybody's open breweries.
They Which I love the fact that they're brewing Dale's Pale, out of Austin. I just wish they'd bring some of their barrel program, some of their 1050. That stuff you still can't get out of the Austin location. They aren't doing it there, but that's just me because I love barrel aged 1050. The Death by Coconut. Oh, it's a phenomenal beer.
But I really like the idea of taking something that's grown nationally and gotten big and finding a way to keep it localized to some degree. I was standing at the grocery store the other day, and it's getting to be exhausting following my own craft beer rules where I'm like, shit, well, I can't buy that, and I can't buy that, and I can't buy that, and you know, I have to rule out half of the beer that's sitting on the shelf there.
And in the end, you're left with pale ale
because I'm trying
Russian
to
Imperial.
and so I like something that's kind of walking it back a little bit and bringing it back more to a local community. That's something you can feel good about, that you know you're putting your money to local businesses. You know, so I think
Well,
it's
I'd
cool.
like the
You
fact.
could always buy raw.
Yeah, you
I-
can
I
definitely do
do
that.
always
Sure,
buy,
yeah.
I do always buy raw. I buy a shitload of raw beer.
We thank you. I'd be interested to try the Dale's Pale Ale brewed with the Blacklands malt next to one brewed out of Longmont
Yeah,
or
me too.
even
Yeah.
Asheville.
Well,
That way you can really taste, see what the malt is giving it, and what the difference is. Or did they choose to go the other route and adjust their recipe or process to get the same flavor? But I would imagine that you wouldn't.
Yeah,
But
I mean that's really
Be interesting to try them together.
behind my question if they're doing exclusively in Austin, because you've now effectively, if you're not careful, brewing 3 different beers.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
Fair enough.
Well, I mean, as a brewery, you can embrace that. It's not necessarily a bad thing. It's just
Right.
how
Yeah.
you approach it.
And they're being served in different markets too, so people don't necessarily know that.
Right.
You know it.
Well, even if they do
And
know
I
it,
agree
you
with
can
Austin.
you just
I-
be open about it.
Yeah, I agree with that. That it's okay if there's some little differences to it.
And I
as
mean,
long as it's
is
the
it
same
bad
essential
or a
product.
different beer, or is it just okay? It's a slightly different malt, thing that the average drinker may not even notice, but if you're really that concerned, you might notice.
Or hell, even the average, more experienced, knowledgeable guy
Yeah.
probably honestly wouldn't be able to pick it
Yeah,
out.
and it's
you
not
know.
necessarily a bad thing. It's
Yeah.
just a
No, I
different
agree.
flavor.
I agree. And
Thought it
then
was
this,
interesting.
the last one on our list here, I don't know much about. I've seen something about this online, and I thought it was interesting because it involves Luck, which I'm a huge fan of, and Cedar Creek, which I'm also a huge fan of. So someone
love
else here.
Luck.
I love Luck, and I've always loved Cedar Creek's beer too. So is
The
there anybody?
Dankosaurus, that's a real good one.
I like the Scruffy, that smoked alt beer.
Ooh, I've never.
I don't
had
know if
that,
they
but that
still
sounds
make that or not.
fabulous.
I don't know.
A smoked alt.
That's Cedar Creek, right?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think so,
yeah.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
does
there's-
anybody know more about this other than what's written on the page here? Or?
I mean, they basically put a press release out, and I saw the Facebook post from the guys at Luck saying that, yeah, we did a thing. This is what's happening. We're going to go ahead and we're getting behind this. We're going to make this work out. So
We know when we had Ned on here before, he had talked about that their goal was to definitely open up another location. And I got the impression that they felt like, in order for them to quit their day jobs and be able
They
to
have
make
to
a
have more
living,
than
that they were
one.
going to have at least 2 or 3 locations.
right, and this
So-
won't be Luck based off the description. Cedar Creek Brew House and Eatery. So I think that's what you're talking about here. Not saying specifically Luck as much as it's the group that. It's that group of guys that open Luck.
Well, Luck
With
knows
another
the food and Cedar
name
Creek knows the
that's-
beer.
yes,
so if you're
so,
doing a brew pub,
yeah.
they're going to split it up.
You know it's going to be good
Yeah.
because
Well,
it's the same chef, it's the same group of guys. All 3 of them are chefs, I should say. But
I did see this week that they were that Luck was partnering with Four Corners, and
Yeah.
they were going to start doing the food. Which Four Corners is literally across like a little side street from.
Not anymore.
not anymore.
No.
They got
Is
kicked
it-
out of there.
Oh, that's right, they did. But they were partnering then with Four Corners.
And Four Corners was bought out by what? Constellation?
Yeah.
Right?
yeah,
Yeah.
Right.
Those
That's
mother-
correct.
Damn.
Say what's
Sorry.
on your mind, Brandon.
Sorry.
Big.
I go from one breath saying I'm exhausted by trying to keep track of all my rules, and then I get indignant in the next breath, right?
But did anybody else have any recent happenings? I couldn't find anything in our chat, and I don't know. My mind's half erased most of the week just from the kids. So
Yeah, this last couple of weeks has been a lot less about beer than all the other crap going on in life. So I think you pretty much covered it there.
okay.
I would say I just have if you're local, Thursday night at RAR. RAR's holding an awesome event for a charity that's close to our heart. It's the event's a cold climb for the warm place. It's $25. It's 4 beers. You get a pint. They got a band, different stuff. So if you're local, that'd be awesome. We're gonna be out there, Sandra and I.
Want to say more about the charity?
Cool.
It's the Warm Place. They're a group that helps siblings deal with the loss of a loved one, whether it's your child or whether it's a sibling or a parent. So it's something that's real close to our heart. So yeah, it'd definitely be awesome.
And that's Thursday night at the brewery?
Thursday night at RAR from 6 to 9, Sandra? Yeah, 6 to 9.
Cool.
Like I said, it includes 4 pints, a pint glass, They have live music. I think even some food. I think it was.
It's worth your time.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Worth
It's
your time.
definitely. It'll be worth. I mean, it's a Thursday night at RAR, so it's not open to the public. It'll be, a little more limited. I'm hoping you guys have some really good stuff.
Is there a website or a Facebook page people can go to?
The Warm Place on Facebook.
The Warm Place. Okay, all right, good, cool.
Yeah, check out their events. It's like I said. It's
I'm
Thursday
glad you
night,
brought that
so-
up. I hadn't heard anything about
You
that.
just got to hope people don't drink as much tomorrow, so there might be some left over, right?
Well, fair. Yeah, that's what I'm hoping.
Oh, don't worry, we got plenty of beer.
That's all they do there.
Really?
Yeah, they just make it and make it. What was it Dorito said? Crunch all you want, we'll make more.
There you go.
I mean, talking about
There you
raw
go.
beers though, that saison you guys had out for the Iron Mash, that was
Oh, man,
the
yeah, that
prick-
was
like the
excellent.
prickly
Yeah,
pear?
the Texanochly.
yes,
Yeah,
that was
thanks.
that was damn good.
I am not a fan of prickly pear as a general rule. Most of the time I've tried it, I don't like it
What?
much. And that was a really outstanding beer. I loved it. It was
When I
still
brought it to the tent, he made a face when I said what was in it. And then he
Yeah.
drank it and goes, "Woo!"
I don't know if I did
Yeah, he
that.
did. It was
I
that
don't think
face.
I did
Exactly.
that. No. I'm going to protest that characterization.
It scared me.
I think it was more like 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 that.
No,
Like a mischievous Pillsbury Doughboy.
Yeah, it was really good though. That thing, that keg blew fast too.
yeah, it did. Yeah, that was a lot of fun to brew that one. That was the second year we did the collaboration with the Mexican brewery. Last year, Paleta de Mango came out of that. So this year we partnered with Propaganda Brewing out of Monterey. So Jose, he came, one of the owners, the brewers, he came up there, brewed it. And then a couple weeks later, I went down there and brewed one with them. So they'd have it down there in Mexico, and we have that one up here. So Belgian Saison, kind of brewed, fermented, pretty straightforward from that perspective. And then put orange pill and the a whirlpool there at the end of the boil. And then, after the ferment, we did put in, I think, 115 pounds of cut up prickly pear and about 20 barrels. So I bought out everything that the Mexican grocery store had. I think it was a Rancho, where the pros go. They kind of looked at me weird when I asked, was like, hey, how much of this do you have? And they told me, I was like, cool. Could you order me like double that? I promise I'll pick it up tomorrow. So I literally walked out with like carts full of prickly pear, and we cut it up there in the brew house and de-skinned it and everything. So I put it in the beer. That was a good time. We used a bunch of the Mexican brewer, Jose. He brought up all the hops because we wanted to drive that citrus flavor and fruity character. And so he brought up a bunch of South African hops that he was able to get. I think it was Dr. Rudy, Pacific Jade, and Motueka. So it was the first time I'd ever used those. We added them really early in the ferment, trying to drive some of the... We've not made a hazy IPA yet, but from talking with the brewers that make that, they drive that fruity character by hopping early into getting that biotransformation. So we're trying to see if we could, not necessarily trying to make a hazy beer, but get those same flavors through that brewing process. And I'm pretty happy with how it turned out. I think it did pretty well.
So is that something we could plan on seeing maybe again, or was that just?
Yeah, we just did it the one-off. I mean, if it takes off like Paleta did, who knows? Because when we made Paleta, we didn't have any intentions of ever making it again. And now we make it all the time. So
now you're selling
I
the shit
love
out of
that.
it.
Yeah, I can't comment. I have no idea how that's gonna go. We'll see.
So talking about the prickly pears, so I've used prickly pears once in a beer. It was a pain in the ass.
Yeah.
They were did you use the green prickly pears or the pink ones? Or
The red ones.
or the more red.
Yeah,
Okay.
down the Spanish word for it is tuna, and the red ones are tuna roja. So we
Okay.
use the tuna, the flesh. No, you just de-skin them. It's got that real thick skin there, and so
Yeah.
you just get the flesh of them, which is almost somewhere between like a cantaloupe and a watermelon. It's really sweet. I like the flavor of them. I think they taste great. I don't know what your problem with them is, Brandon, but hey.
Well, I think the
Brandon
things
has a problem
the
with
things I've
everything.
had
He's
them
a
in,
hater.
they've been overdone, and it just takes over. I've had a mead and a
okay.
beer with them where it was just all prickly pear, and it's too sweet, especially for a saison. You need to dry it out, need to keep it nice and drinkable. And
Well,
it wasn't overdone.
Well, the saison we used has the diastaticus in it, and so it dries out like even on its own super dry. And we added it. We dumped most of the yeast, but there's still tons of yeast in there, so it was able to re-ferment a bit. But we just cut it up. I bought everything we did, and then we just cut it up. I boiled it first, and added a little bit of water, made like a little puree, and then mixed it into the beer, and then just let it do its thing after that.
See, because Brandon, you said you get sweet from prickly pear. Ours we got more bitter. We got more bitter
too.
bitter
too.
and very vegetable. But like I said, that was a one-off. I was trying to do like a prickly pear pale ale type esque, and it turned into a nightmare.
Yeah. So we were afraid. Like the first time we brewed Paletta, we still use the mango puree. But the first time we had filtered it first and then kind of added it back in, wanting to keep the sweetness. But then in some of the cans, that if they got left warm, something got in there at some point. It might have not been from the fruit, but it had the sugar to chew on. So now for regular Paletta, we always add that still with the yeast on there and get a little bit of a re-ferment to help prevent that. So we're concerned about that again, adding basically raw fruit that hasn't even been like the puree is aseptic. So that's a clean product to put in there. It's not going to bring anything to the table other than what you expect. So we were worried about that, from just the raw fruits. That's why I was like, well, I need to like basically cook it for just 10 minutes or just bring it to a light simmer kind of thing. So that was mostly our concern with that, just to help prevent that, because microbial stability is really important to us. Even if it's just a one-time thing, we still want to take all our precautions.
Right.
Okay, awesome.
So.
All right.
Well,
Eric, do we have bumpers for our next segment here? Or?
Bumpers? You want bumpers? What is this?
That's difficulty.
Are we
You're asking
bowling
for
with Stubby?
difficulty.
I take it that's a no.
That's a no, I guess.
I worked real hard on this.
Yeah.
I know, and it's real good. And
So it's a no?
Wait, hold on, everybody, just be quiet. Hold on, just be quiet. Okay, now I can plug it in. Post-production.
I don't know what any of that means.
No.
I think
All
that
right,
just means
so-
go ahead with the next segment.
Yeah, it seems
All right,
that
so
way.
unsolicited answers to internet questions here. Which one are we going to start with here, Greg?
Any of them? What do you feel like? These are the
I
same
don't,
ones
I
from
don't
last
like
week
any
that
of
we
them,
didn't cover.
so yeah.
Well, you liked them last time. Not last week. But the week
Yeah, but that
before.
was last week. He's had a bad week, so it's changed.
Well, I don't know the answer to the cider one. I don't know. Is there anybody here with cider brewing experience that can answer that one?
Well,
or?
the guy's asking for methods to avoid sulfur in his cider, saying that he fermented one, turned out well except for the obvious sulfur aroma in the finished product. And he asked about degassing when you make meads and whatnot. And basically, the real issue here, he's asking whether or not he should be degassing a cider on a daily basis like you would a mead, or like you might do with the wine early in the process.
I don't
Not
degas
no,
mead.
it's not. It's not really what it's about. I mean, with a cider, I don't think I've seen one example yet, possible of any homebrew version that is not going to have sulfur. It's going to take a little time to drop out. It will. I mean, it's going to happen. It's,
I
so
guess
sitting in secondary
my
or in a
question on
keg
this
or
would
in
be
a,
is that's got to be
even in
yeast
bottles.
specific, right?
Well, pretty much all the yeast you're using for those ciders is, unless you're
Well,
using
I
something
use,
that's a
like
beer
D47 or I
yeast,
use
it
I use
should
wine
typically
yeast.
produce
Really?
some
Okay.
sulfur. Yeah, I mean that's what's going to happen. I don't think I've had one that was without sulfur character in the early stages, like right after primary and secondary. Still had it, but give it another couple of months, even in a keg or whatever, it typically will go away. So that's the key to that. And the degassing part of it, I would say no to watch that, because you're just oxygenating this and you're oxidizing it over time. It's
My
not the same
understanding
as a
on the
mead.
degassing is you're just getting the CO2 out of suspension to keep the
But
fermentation.
it's not going to be quite the same as a mead, which requires there's a lot more toxicity apparently with mead than there would be, say, with the cider. There's a lot less of a nutrient content that